So let's, though, talk about this one Ravens news because we want to try to keep what's going on in Baltimore, in the area, and the community. And that is that, Kevin, Patrick Queen currently had an interesting interview. Would you like to introduce this, and then I will play the video?
Yeah, I will set the scene here gladly. So, yes, Patrick Queen, we know he's gone from Baltimore. He signed with the Steelers, 3-year, $41 million deal. So Patrick Queen did an interview. I think it was a local Pittsburgh podcast, and talked about like his free agent journey and experience, where he was essentially tasked with deciding, he said, between winning now or getting paid now. And talked about how he had some teams offering him in like the $17 million range, and the difference between that and winning for him was $4 or $5 million. And so all this different stuff. But the clip, when it got put out, the whole point was, okay, he wants to win now. That's fine. But you just left the team that had the best record in the AFC last year, the number 1 seed. And you're going to a team, obviously Baltimore, obviously they have Lamar Jackson and bunch of talented players. Not that Pittsburgh doesn't, but their quarterback situation is super uncertain. It's like, if you're trying to win now, wouldn't Baltimore be a better place to do it than Pittsburgh? And so there's a bunch of controversy. Did Baltimore even offer Patrick Queen a contract? What did that look like? So it is it's an interesting conversation in just everything. Brad, what did you think about it, Brad?
Brad, you're muted.
You're muted.
Are we going to bring up the
yeah?
clip?
Do we? Yeah. Let's play it first.
Do we have the clip?
Yeah, Jesus Christ!
All right,
I just kept on going.
I mean, day one, like just going into it, you wasn't expecting like any linebackers to sign. I remember when Frankie signed, and then what he signed for, I was like, oh, here we go. He like just messed it up. But you know, I'm definitely proud of him because you know where he come from and what he been through, and just for him to be able to get paid and stuff. But I definitely want to be one of the top 3, top 5, top 8. So once that happened, I just knew like from all the 15 teams that I was getting talked to, it came down to like 5 at the end. So it was just like 5 teams in the mix. Some of them was offering some 17s, and then it was just like after that, it was just like, do I have a chance to either go win or I have a chance to get paid? And you know, for me, the difference was like 4 or 5 million. And I'm looking at it as like I never been on a losing team before, and then I also don't want to be a part of like anything being rebuilt because I'm trying to win now. Even though I'm young, I'm trying to win now. Because like being around like people like Calais, who was trying to win in a late stage of his career, and like all the other guys that I played with, this is not something that I would really want to do, you know. So I'm really just trying to win right now, get that out of the way, and just get paid later.
Okay. So first off, I'd like to note out that, Kevin, thank you for reading the show notes again.
I thought you were going to play the clip and you were not at your seat, so I was trying to stall.
No, we got to work on our communication here because I think everyone. I said, could you preview it and then we will play the clip.
Yeah, but I thought you were going to be the one to play it and you weren't at your seat. That's
who's
why
the producer
I
around
Brad.
here?
Well, that's why I wanted to get Brad's opinion on it.
And now,
Am I allowed to ask Brad what he thinks about it now?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
you can add Brad what he thinks about
Brad,
it.
what do you think about this clip?
I don't understand. So he said a couple of things that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. He said he didn't want to be on a losing team. Now, granted, the Steelers were above 500, but they're not. By all accounts, they were a losing team last year, right? I mean, we can all agree on that. I mean, the Ravens gave them a win last year, obviously, and so I don't really understand that. I also don't know the win now thing either, because you're in the AFC North again, so like it's going to be really hard for you to win now with teams such as the Ravens and the Browns, the Bengals. Like, they're all teams that are going to win now. And the Steelers are arguably the weakest team in the division. I would say that. And you got 2 quarterbacks that could be good. You just never know. Both of them are question marks, and Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. I just don't know how the Steelers are actually going to improve all that much, especially given what you saw from them last year. So Patrick Queen's rationale doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. And I would be curious to learn other teams that offer him that kind of money and where they are as far as the ability to win now versus the deal he took with the Steelers. It still doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And this isn't a knock on Patrick Queen. Go get your bag. Go win some games just as long as they're not against the Ravens. But, man, like I just don't understand any of the logic with this signing from Patrick Queen's standpoint. It still doesn't seem like it's very clear to me.
Well, one thing we talked about, right, Kevin, if I'm not mistaken, it was, do you want to take a bag to go to Carolina or a place like that where there's there's even more questions. Pittsburgh, the culture's there. Mike Tomlin's there. It's just, what is their difference of going from a team that has upside to a team that you think is going to contend? And Patrick Queen, you can make the argument, Brad and I understand. Patrick Queen thinks that they can contend. Now, the question is, can they contend with whatever their quarterback, either Russell Wilson or Justin Fields? That's where it's going to lie. Did Pittsburgh need a linebacker to fill that presence? Yes, it fits it. Does Pittsburgh have a very talented defense? Yes. Do they have certain offensive pieces? Yes. But the biggest question mark is going to lie on who's going to be the quarterback here.
Yeah. I mean, that's my biggest question about this is, I want to win now. I don't want to go to a team that's rebuilding. The Steelers, we don't know who their quarterback is. Like, yes,
you're on a team that's rebuilding.
Yeah, like I feel like the Steelers, especially if they go with Justin Fields and they try to take a year to see what he does, how they want to fill in a team around him, that's rebuilding. Like, I understand, like, if he said he wants to go to a competitive team, stay in the division, stuff like that, like, he loves AFC North football. Yeah. I just think the whole, like, I don't want to go to a rebuilding team. I've never lost in my career. And I don't, that it is just interesting to go then to a team that, like you said, Brad, is probably going to get picked to finish last in the division by most skeptics, be between them and the Browns. So, it is obviously they could come back and Russell Wilson can look revived. We can have a whole discussion about how that impacts it all. But it feels like there are more question marks around the team than just, I'm here to win. Like, I feel like that is up in the air.
Well, the thing is, I think it's fair to say Pittsburgh's going to find a way to battle and grind. And also, Jacob, it's a good point. Teams play teams tough. Pittsburgh has played Baltimore. They've given Baltimore fits. You can say whatever the reason. You can say the injuries. You can say whatever it is. The Ravens, when they play Pittsburgh, specifically when they've gone to Pittsburgh, weird shit has happened in those games so far. So Pittsburgh knows how to play Baltimore. The biggest thing for Pittsburgh, though, is can they match up with some of the other best teams? And again, it is going to sit on, is Russell Wilson going to be the guy, Kevin, or is Justin Fields going to be the one to elevate it? I do agree, Alex, with this of saying, if Marlo talked about on the perspective that Patrick Queen has a secure role, if you're going to take less money, if that's the truth, over having job security and be in a position where you think you can excel, that sounds exciting to me. Like, I would trust Mike Tomlin and that defense more than going to Carolina with a first-year head coach with a team that is not projected to win many games at all. So I think that I understand that part of the logic, but again, I hate even saying it. It's just really going to all rely on what happens at the quarterback position for Pittsburgh.
Well, and it's also just so circumstantial because the quarterback position, it's the most important position on the roster. I mean, teams can win without a good quarterback, but it's really hard. You have to have a great roster around that guy. And so to me, winning also, we're seeing a lot more parity in the NBA today than we are, and even in the MLB than the NFL. But these teams, we've seen a bunch of leaps from these younger up-and-coming teams where if it is Carolina, let's say, if Bryce Young has a breakout second season, which again is not a guarantee, but if he does, and then they get more weapons around him, I mean, that team could be winning. And by the way, the NFC is a lot weaker than the AFC. And by a lot, I mean a lot weaker. Yeah. So, again, the Chiefs are the team to beat. We know that. But there is still parity with the other teams around, especially in a competitive AFC, where if you want to go and you want to win, like, I get it. Pittsburgh has a strong culture. They needed a linebacker. But I also wonder about Baltimore's approach in the whole free agency process, because I'm not sure they even offered him a contract.
I don't think they did.
I mean, Geno Stone hinted at it on Twitter, and for both him and Patrick Queen. And it's interesting because there is a certain way that these negotiations are done, and it's different across every sport and every team. But if the Ravens were like, look, we can't pay you what you need, they're not going to go and offer him, hey, we'll pay you 3 years, $12 million. That's just disrespectful to offer him that. So they probably might. And if they didn't offer, it was probably something like, we respect you, we love what you did here, but we know we can't match the value that you're going to go out there and get. So we're not going to offer you anything. If that's how it went. So I'm curious to see.
Yeah, but I would say this. If that was the case, Kevin, I would agree with you if it seemed like it was a pleasant mutual parting of ways, and I would imagine that most of them aren't, right? But Geno Stone and Patrick Queen both were like, we want to go somewhere where we feel valued.
Yeah.
And I'm paraphrasing, but they said that via their social media platform. So it's kind of like one of those things where it's interesting. And Geno, well, I mean, he led the team in interceptions, last year. So I it's interesting. If they weren't offered anything from the Ravens, I would agree with you. It's probably because they just knew that they weren't going to be able to meet what their market was asking for them. But at the same time, I don't know. It just kind of seems weird to me that both of them were kind of like, well, they just don't see the value in what it is that we bring to the table, so we're going to go elsewhere.
Well, and value in general too. Another way that it shows value is how much money you're going to be given. That makes you feel good. Is all right. What's your plan for me, and what's the contract? And for Patrick Queen, he got a deal, which again we talked about. I'm happy for the dude. We talked about it's a business for everything you're doing. Yeah. And you said that, Brad. I know you did. But for those guys, how you feel valued after all those years of putting out there for the squad is getting paid. And when you get paid, you feel like, all right, they are investing in me because they believe in me. And that's just the one part of the business. It's the Ravens value everything that those players did. The reality is they just can't pay those guys with their other priorities that are happening. Hope the best for them. Should be a great rivalry with Pittsburgh. But nonetheless, Patrick Queen, it will be interesting the first time. I'm still waiting for that. Derrick Henry, Patrick Queen, meet me in the hole. We are going to talk about that quite often. So